SMEs are the backbone of the Philippine economy. Union Bank has laid down the groundwork for creating an ecosystem helping businesses through an integrated user experience connecting key stakeholders in the ecosystem. SMEs can now have immediate access to financial service providers, points of sale or POS, accounting, inventory, human resources, tax and payroll services, supply chain management, and providing business communities and engagement in B2B and B2C marketplaces. In building that ecosystem, Union Bank Global Linker was born. It's an online platform with social networking capabilities that help SMEs manage and grow their businesses. On their first year of launch, they already have 33,000 SMEs signed up in the platform. Their promise? To become a one-stop hub for business owners. 4 pillars. Network with potential partners and suppliers from a global network of SMEs. Engage with thought leaders and create your own topics for discussion. Avail exclusive deals and offers from business solutions that will help aid an SME's business. Create a DIY e-commerce shop. Linker.store.
I think one major role that Global Linker plays is its ability to create a digital platform that for business growth. It's a huge help because it provides for an avenue where businesses can interact, learn, and at the same time expand their networks.
But as a social media platform, Global Linker helps build the community of SMEs and link them to the right markets, suppliers, financiers, and advisors.
I've actually established a contact in Philippines who is interested in my product, and we are working on ways how we can do that. So hopefully, it materializes.
The future of the SME sector in the Philippines is endless. With fintech, business growth can accelerate by breaking down barriers, setting up important connections, and moving daily activities. Success is definite. It's just waiting to happen. The growth of SME filters to all levels of the Philippine society. This sector employs more than 60% of Filipinos. So many lives will be transformed with the success of SMEs. Union Bank Global Linker will be there to make it happen.
Ako si Benedict De Vera, may-ari ng Bedex General Merchandise at ito ang diskarte ko. Alam mo, high school graduate lang ako. And then nagtinda kami ng fishbowl dati para mayroon ako pang araw-araw ng pagkain kasama ang pamilya. Tapos nakapagtayo din kami ng accounting services at ngayon meron kaming hardware construction supply. Napansin ko kasi, usong-uso na ang online shopping ngayon. Pwede kang magbenta sa Luzon, Visayas at Mindanao. At ang maganda pa, sila sada ng balance shipping nationwide. Mas malakas ang online, hindi lang sa dami ng sales, kundi sa laki pa ng kita. Sa online selling kasi, mas malakas na ang benta, mas kaunti pa ang gastos. Nakatulong ang Lazada para kami bakabangon muli. Nakakapagbayad na kami ng housing loans, car loans, at everyday expenses. Ngayon na guminawan ng buhay namin, nakakapagplano na kami trip abroad. I-prioritize mo mga customer mo, sagutin yung mga inquiries nila, assist mo bago bumili, at after bumili. Kaya kung sa ganon, dadami na ang sales mo, tataas pa ang ratings mo. Dahil sa Lazada, kahit sino, pwede na magkaroon ng successful business. Kaya kung kaya ko, kaya nyo rin.
Freelancing or running your own business is not all fun and games the way most people make it out to be. It's not just about working at home, in coffee shops, or having all that time in your hands. Sure, you are your own boss, but this also entails taking charge of your own health insurance, making voluntary contributions to SSS, PhilHealth, and Pag-ibig. Then there's taxes. Like employees, the self-employed are required to register with BIR for tax filing. When you apply for a tourist visa, loans for housing and cars, or even a credit card, one of the usual requirements is an income tax return, or ITR. Diligently keeping track of your taxes saves you from more problems in the long run. then perhaps it's time to check out TaxSumo. It lets freelancers, business owners, and self-employed professionals file taxes online in minutes. That way, you can focus more on your passion and stop worrying on taxes. Sign up with us at www.taxsumo.com.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for today's webinar. I'm Liaj Alas, the Growth Manager of TaxSumo. And in this webinar, we will be discussing how to file your annual income tax return, especially if you're a freelancer, licensed professional like a doctor, or a small business owner. So if you haven't started filing for the April 15 deadline, then this webinar is definitely the best place to start. So if you, can you comment down below where you're at, where you're from, and how are you doing? Because we will be, we would like to give you a shout out in this webinar. And for those who, this is the first time that you're coming across TaxSumo, if you don't know, we're an online tax filing and payment software accredited by the BIR. So what we have is a web application that automates the tax filing process for you. Our app will fill out your tax forms, compete for your taxes, generate your attachments, and submit them to the BIR all in just a few clicks. And that's TaxSumo. And for those who are watching, please share this video using the hashtag #TaxItEasy and hashtag super easy for the super busy. And if you have any questions, please feel free to type in your comments down below because we will be entertaining your questions during the Q&A portion of this webinar. And before I introduce our speakers from the BIR, I'd like to give out a shout out for the partners who have made this webinar possible. So I'd like to give a shout out to Union Bank, Lazada, Bounce Back PH, The Digital Architect, VA Bootcamp, Online Filipino Freelancers, Producto, Bloggers ng Pinas, Freelance Brand, and FH Moms. They're all sharing this in their respective committees. So hello to each and everyone who belongs to these groups. So let's go to who we're waiting for. Let's introduce our speakers, and we're really extremely grateful and honored to have these speakers share their time and knowledge with us today. So first of all, we have Attorney Lani David. She is a Deputy Commissioner for the Information Systems Group of the BIR, and she is also the designated Data Protection Officer of the BIR. Welcome to the call, Attorney Lani.
Hello. Hi, Lidge.
Hello. How are you?
I'm fine. Malinaw ba?
So
Am I clear?
Yes, you're very clear. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. And also with Attorney Lani is we have Ma'am Janet Cruz. She is the Head Revenue Executive Assistant of the Client Support Services of the BIR. She's been in government service for more than 40 years and 36 of years of which is with the BIR. So everyone, let's welcome Ma'am Janet Cruz.
Hi everyone, magandang hapon po. Good afternoon, Lidge. Hi Ma'am Lani, good afternoon.
Hello, hi Janet.
Thank you so much for your time for today, and we have already 44 viewers watching, and I'm pretty sure they're very excited how to file the annual ITR, lalo na sobrang lapit na, April 15 na yung deadline, no?
Yes, very soon. Coming very soon.
Yeah, so Ma'am Janet and Ma'am Lani will be teaching us everything we need to know on filing your annual ITR. So please, in a few minutes, we'll be starting that presentation. But before I hand you over to your speakers, don't forget to type in your questions in the comment section down below, and we will answer them during the Q&A portion of this webinar. So I'm pretty sure that all of you will have a lot of questions once we go through the presentation. So please feel free lang to type. So without further ado, I'll turn you over to Attorney Lani David, the BIR Deputy Commissioner for the Information Systems Group.
Yeah. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. The TaxSumo official is led by its CEO, Mr. Eugene Jose Arboleda. And of course, we have here with us Lidge, no? To its brand partners and community partners, they are just too many to mention, no? Hindi ko nababanggitin isa-isa. And of course, to all the participants and attendees, virtually present, good afternoon. So let me thank TaxSumo, no, and the organizer for inviting us in this webinar. on the filing of annual income tax returns or ITRs for freelancers, professionals, and small business owners. The BIR welcomes every opportunity to speak to you, to all our taxpayers, especially to our small business owners, professionals, individuals, freelancers, no? And be able to share with you information that can help encourage greater compliance. Now, before I go any further, I would like everyone here to know that Taxumo, no, is one of the BIR accredited taxpayer service providers or TSP. Ito yung tinatawag nating TSP. So let me take this opportunity to commend Taxumo and other accredited TSPs for offering to our taxpayers like you, no, their application, their solution that automates computation, filing, and payment of taxes. Now, I am very glad that we have this opportunity this afternoon to discuss with you, with the participants, not only the details of filing their annual ITRs, but also some of our e-services that they can avail of in complying with their tax obligations. Now, the BIR understands the challenges imposed on everyone by the requirements of the nationwide quarantine, no, and how these challenges have placed an added stress on the tax-paying public's compliance burden, particularly for freelancers, the self-employed, and professionals, and yes, to the small business owners, marami tayo dyan. We hope that our online filing, online payment, and other e-services will help to ease this compliance burden. Nabanggit na rin kanina ni Lidge, no? As the month of March will soon be over, I am sure we are all anticipating the April 15 deadline for the filing and payment of our annual income taxes. So I would like to remind everyone and encourage you to file and pay your taxes early, no? Kasama ako doon. So let us not wait for the deadline, yung April 15. Considering the prevailing situation with the COVID pandemic, no, it is understandable how so many transactions are now being done online. Kaya mas madali na mag-file at magbayad, no? Hindi na tayo kailangan pumila. May I also emphasize with you that the BIR has made available its online filing and payment facilities, and we urge you to use these facilities kasi dinevelop yun ng BIR para talaga sa inyo, no? Para gamitin ng mga taxpayers, especially under the present situation nga na may COVID, no? Na iniiwasan natin yung pagpunta sa bangko, no? Para magbayad ng tax. You can pay your taxes online. By the way, my fellow revenue official, Ms. Janet Cruz, is here with us, no? She's the head revenue executive assistant of our client support service. And she has joined me this afternoon and preparation siya. No? She prepared a very exhaustive presentation on the filing of annual ITRs, especially for the participants, no? For the freelancers, professionals, and small business owners. I may not be able to join you until the end of the webinar because I have to attend to another equally important meeting. But Ms. Janet will welcome your queries and comments, no? So that we can help you to come to a comprehensive understanding of this very important aspect of tax compliance, no? And you can also ask her about the other e-services, no? Anyway, take up niya yon during the presentation. Looking ahead, there are still many challenges before us and many trials that still lie ahead. But ever has it been that in times of difficulty, it is our shared efforts and cooperation that will see us through any situation. May we continue to nurture this sincere and generous collaboration between the taxpayer and the tax agency, the BIR, so that together we can support our country's efforts to recover from our present challenges and to ensure the well-being of our people. So thank you all and please stay safe and healthy. Mabuhay ang BIR, mabuhay tayong lahat, mabuhay ang Pilipinas. So back to you, Lidge.
Thank you so much for those words, Ma'am Lani. So I'll also be bringing in Ma'am Janet Cruz so that she can begin her presentation. Welcome to the stream, Ma'am Janet.
Hi again, good afternoon, and to our viewers, magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Okay. So, game na ba?
Yes, game na po. I'll share this, ito.
Okay, so magandang hapon po sa ating mga manunood, sa viewers po natin ngayon sa Facebook and live streaming po natin. So I will be discussing with you some of the items that you need to know with regard to income tax, which of course coming very soon po in the nearest theater. That would be by April 15. So let me go over. Particularly, the discussion would be catered. I have catered this to taxpayers classified as individuals, those that are engaged in business, whether it be small, medium, large, but individual taxpayers. And we will be discussing income tax for purposes of your group. So individuals engaged in business, self-employed, and professionals. Okay, so next slide, please. Okay, so as individual engaged in business, there actually are two rates that you can avail of or that you could be subjected to. One of the rates of income tax that you may want to be subjected to is what we call the regular income tax rate. So, under the train law which took effect January 1, 2018, ito po yung tax table natin, no? So, pagka po ang inyong taxable income as computed, I'll show that later, is not more than 250,000, that's for the year, that's 0%. Ibig sabihin, exempt, wala pong babayaran. However, as you go higher, yung pong taxable income, the rate increases, no? So, dito po sa nakikita ninyo sa screen, pag over 250,000 to 400, that's 20%. And then, in excess of the 250. So, first 250 is actually exempt. Then, over 400 to 830,000 plus 25% in excess of 400,000. And so on. Hindi ko na po yan iisa-isahin kasi mahaba yan. Available naman po ito. Nandun po yan sa tax returns po natin. Should you want to refer to this. What is important is, you know na meron po tayong tinatawag na regular income tax rates. Okay? So, this is one option. Next slide, please. The other option by which an individual engaged in business would be or can be liable to is what we'll call the availment of the 8% option. Now, yung kanina, yung regular income tax, yung babayaran nyo doon is for income tax lamang. So, ibig sabihin, kung ang inyo pong business ay required magbayad ng business tax like percentage tax or VAT, you still have to pay that. While dito po sa next option, which is the 8%, whatever it is po na babayaran ninyo represents already both for income tax and business tax. So therefore, kung ano yung binayaran nyo, income tax and VAT, kung VAT registered po kayo, percentage tax, and then income tax po, plus business tax which is percentage tax. So hindi po kasali dito pag VAT registered po kasi ibig sabihin more than 3 million na po yung inyong gross. Okay. So who may now avail of the 8%? This is applicable to individuals who are engaged in business or practice of profession. However, the basis of this, the 8% is on your gross, walang deduction. Yung kanina dun sa regular income tax rates, it's the taxable income. Ibig sabihin, may mga binawas na po or allowed na deductions, which I will show later. Now, the 8% option, pareho din po siya dun sa regular. The first 250,000 is exempt. However, ang pwede lang pong mag-avail nito ay yung mayroong gross sales or gross receipt that will not exceed 3 million. So, yun lang pong mga non-VAT ito. Because right now, pagka po more than 3 million na yung gross ninyo, it's mandatory that you will now be covered by value-added tax for purposes of business tax. Now, if you want to avail of the option, hindi po huhulaan ng BIR. You need to inform us. And that information will have to be done by you yearly. Annually, kailangan po. No? So, how will you inform BIR? There are actually 3 ways. Nawala ata yung ika-third way. Yung first is actually, every year, let's say for example, itong 2021, taxable year 2021. Dapat, bago tayo nag-start, ang assumption is registered na kayo sa BIR. Now, if you want to avail of the 8% option, you fill up BIR Form 1905 and ilagay po nyo doon na mag-a-avail kayo ng 8%. So, this has to be submitted to the RDO where you are registered. Now, once the RDO receive this particular advice, this notification, or your request that informing us that you will avail of the 8%, automatic yon, yung pong percentage tax na dapat babayaran mo, masususpend, hindi ka po magbabayad na muna. So, walang requirement for you to do the filing. Okay? So, that's one. Before the year starts, or siguro right before, no? Kasi po, right after na mag-start yung year. Now, the second option is when you file your 2551Q. Let's say, for example, January, no? Nakalimutan mo, hindi ka nakapunta sa BIR to inform us na mag-a-avail ka by submitting 1905. Then you have another way. That is, when you file your 2551Q, this is actually your percentage tax, no? So this return, mayroon niyang box doon na you will avail of the 8%. And as such, pag nilagay mo yon, siyempre wala ka ng babayaran kasi nga part of the 8% that you will pay is already business tax or percentage tax. And then the third time, let's say nakalimutan mo na naman, then filing of your 1701Q, or this is your quarterly, first quarter income tax, which is supposed to be due May 15. Again, the return, meron dong box. All you have to do is click or check that particular box. That would already be a signal for the BIR that you will avail of the 8% option for your income tax. So that's how you will have to inform us. Again, I want to emphasize, if you want this option, taon-taon po ito, kailangan ninyo i-inform ang BIR. How? By the ways I told you, tatlong ways po yan. Any of this, pwede po ninyong magamit to inform BIR of your option to avail of the 8%. Okay? Now, let's go to the next slide. Now, let me just show you a general computation po ito. Simpleng computation lang ito ng how to compute for your income tax, no? But basically, if you really want a guide, the income tax return itself is your guide. Nandoon na po, susundan lang po ninyo line by line. Just follow what is written there. And accordingly, makakarating po kayo doon sa tax na dapat nyo babayaran. Okay, let me just give you an overview of how income tax is computed. Now, this slide will tell you or will show you, let's say, for example, you opt for the regular income tax rate. So, yung regular income tax rate natin would be yun po yung from 0 to 35%, which is yung pinakita ko kanina na table. Now, let's assume that the gross sale or gross receipt po ninyo, depende kasi yan kung kayo po ay nasa services or nasa sale of goods kayo, is 1 million. Now, di ba kanina sabi ko taxable income. So you're allowed deductions. Ano po yung pwedeng ibawas dun sa mga gross sales natin? That includes cost, yung puhunan, no? Yung purchases of cost, if ever, kung nasa sale of goods po kayo, kung magkano yung pagkabili ninyo, ng goods na binenta ninyo, yung puhunan po ninyo, ibabawas din natin. And that would give you now the gross income. From the gross income, you're allowed operating expenses. Ano tong operating expenses na to? Actually, ito po yung mga ginagastos ninyo sa negosyo, sa business, no? But, for purposes of operating expenses na i-claim po ninyo, there are requisites. there are conditions for allowability. Ibig sabihin, hindi pwede yung basta namult kayo ng resibo o invoice sa mga nadaanan ninyo at kinlaim nyo na yan as deduction. Hindi po pwede yon. So ano po yung mga conditions para i-allow ng BIR ang inyong mga operating expenses na pwedeng i-claim as deduction? Number 1, kailangan po yung expenses was incurred or paid within the taxable year. So if we're saying 2020, dapat po yung mga resibo or invoices na yan, which is the substantiation po ninyo, yung proof, ay dapat po lahat ang date niyan ay 2020. Kung ang pinag-uusapan natin ay taxable year 2020, at doon nyo po siya i-claim as deduction. Okay, so that's one. Second, of course, is sinabi ko na, substantiation. Dapat meron kayong proof na mayroon talaga kayong binayaran o pinagkagastahan na expense. Third, kailangan po yung expense is related to your business operation. In other words, business-related dapat lang po ang pwede na gastos sa pagpapatakbo ng negosyo. Hindi po pwedeng idagdag o gamitin natin pambawas doon sa ating income. Yun pong mga personal na gastos. Halimbawa, umupa ka ng bahay. Yung upa mo ng bahay ay ibabawas mo. Hindi naman dun yung business mo. Halimbawa, yung negosyo mo ay meron kang nirerentahan na isang space. So yung renta sa space, pwede mo ibawas. Pero yung renta ng bahay mo, hindi pwede. Not unless, again, yung renta, yung business mo ay nandun din sa bahay mo. So it has to be related po lahat. Example pa rin po natin sa operating expenses. Halimbawa po, mayroon kayong ang tawag dito, insurance, no? Insurance. O yung insurance po ng bahay ninyo, hindi nyo pwedeng i-charge dito. O kaya yung tuition fee ng anak ninyo, hindi nyo pwedeng i-charge dito. Kasi these are all personal expenses. Only expenses that are related to or incurred or paid in connection with your business operation ang pwede po natin gamiting deduction. So, yan po. And then, the last one is actually on withholding tax. It's a separate topic, but under our law, under our regulations, meron po tayong mga pinagbabayaran na mandated ng BIR, dapat mag-withhold po kayo. No? Parang kunyari, yung sweldo ng tao ninyo, kailangan mag-withhold po tayo. Kung hindi po minimum wage earner yung tao, kailangan mag-withhold. Pag po hindi kayo nag-withhold, then that expense that should have been subjected to withholding na hindi po ninyo na subject ay pwede pong i-disallow ng BIR during our audit. Okay? So, yun po yun. If you will be claiming po ng expenses ninyo. Okay, now, there are two types of expenses na pwede po ninyong i-claim as deduction. Number 1 is itemized. Pag sinabi pong itemized, andun lahat yung expenses. Isa-isa po yun. At pag sinabi nating isa-isa, kunyari, may salaries, may rental, may transportation, may supplies, may maintenance, and all that. Lahat po yan, itemized deduction po ang tawag natin. At pag magkiklaim po kayo ng itemized deduction, diyan po papasok yung mga sinabi ko kanina na requisites on deductibility of expenses. Ibig sabihin, lahat po ng conditions na sinasabi ko para ma-allow ng BIR, yun pong itemized deduction ninyo, dapat po papasok dun sa mga conditions na in-enumerate ko earlier. Okay? Now, the other way by which you can claim expenses is by using the optional standard deduction or OSD. The optional standard deduction is simpler. Wala siyang requirement ng substantiation, wala yung mga conditions kanina, but it's a straight computation of 40% of your gross sales or gross receipt. Straight lang po, kukumpitin mo yung 40% ng 1 million. Dito sa example ko, yung deduction mo, pwede na siyang maging 400,000. Okay, so sa example po natin. So it's 40% of your gross sales. No need for any substantiation requirement. So that is your option, whether to claim expenses na itemized or optional standard. And when you deduct your operating expenses, the basic natin formula, then magkakaroon po tayo ng taxable income. And that amount, the taxable income, yan po ngayon yung titignan natin kung magkano yung tax na dapat nating babayaran under our first option, which is the regular income tax rate. Now, doon sa table natin, meron tayo 400,000 taxable. Doon sa table, kung maalaala ninyo kanina, the first 250,000 is exempt. Di po ba? 0%. So, doon sa 400, tatanggalin natin yung 250 muna. 0 yon. Now, in excess po ng 250, yun yung mako-cover nung next rate, which in this case is 20%. So, following our tax table, the income tax due will be 30%. Rather, 30,000. Now, kung nagbi-business po tayo, required po tayo mag-file ng quarterly income tax. Now, dun sa mga quarterly income tax ninyo, first, second, third quarter, kung may mga binayaran po kayo doon, pwede po ninyong ibawas dito. No? Kasi parang advance payment na yon ng income tax ninyo sa annual. Or, kung meron naman po kayong, let's say, na kliyente o customer na nag-withhold at niremit sa BIR at inissuehan po kayo ng Certificate of Withholding, which is BIR Form 2307, then pwede po ninyo yun ibawas din dun sa income tax due natin dito po sa computation. Depende na lang po, kailangan lang hawak po ninyo, may hawak kayo ng Certificate of Withholding that was made by your client. Now, accordingly, you deduct those two kung mayroon po kayo or kung ano man yung available, you will arrive at the income tax that is still due. Now, in our example, wala po tayong nilagay na parang advance payment in terms of income tax filed quarterly or even withholding tax kasi simpleng computation lang po, the income tax will be 30,000. Now, note, meron po ako ni-note dyan. This is income tax. Since you opted for a regular income tax rate, you are still mandated to pay the 3% percentage tax, which of course is based on your gross sales or gross receipts. In our example, that would be 30,000, 3% of gross sales of 1 million dito po sa ating diagram na nakikita po ninyo ngayon. Okay? So, that is how we compute for purposes of regular income tax rate. Okay, let's move on to the next option. Next option is 8%, di ba? Kanina yung sabi natin. Now, how do we go about the 8%? Simpler. Okay? O, andyan pa rin yung example. Same example tayo, yung computation para makita po ninyo. We still have the gross sales of 1 million, the cost of 500,000, operating expenses on the assumptions that these are all allowable, 100,000, and our taxable income is at 400,000. Now, if I will now avail of the 8% option, okay, kahit mayroon akong ganyang computation sa income tax, sa income statement ko, ang babayaran ko pong income tax is only 8% of the 1 million. However, take note kanina, di ba sabi ko, the first 250,000 is exempt. So therefore, kung mag-a-avail po kayo ng 8%, tatanggalin din po muna natin the first 250,000, whatever the difference, you multiply that with the 8% option and that would already be your income tax that you have to pay. Okay, now, dito po, hindi ko pinakita na nag-file kayo ng quarterly. Kahit po mag-a-avail kayo ng 8% option, just like the same po dun sa regular option of income tax rate, required pa din po mag-file ng quarterly income tax. So, again, kung 60,000 po yung na-compute, minus kung ano po yung binayaran ninyo sa first quarter, second quarter, or third quarter, that would be the deductible from the income tax computed based on the 8% option. Okay? Note lamang po, when you opt the 8% of the 8%, the option goes for the entire year. Hindi po pwede na nakita nyo, dun sa first quarter, nag-8% ka. Pagdating sa second quarter, nakita mo, ay, marang mas malaki, marang mas maganda, mag-itemize ako. Hindi po pwede. The option is for the entire taxable year. So, pag nag-opt ka na sa umpisa, sa first quarter mo, the option goes up to the end. That would be until December. So, yun pong ating 8%, first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and of course, the annual income tax. Ganon din po dun sa regular income tax rate, no? Kung nag-opt ka sa first quarter mo na regular income tax rate, that would be the option for the entire taxable year. Hindi po pwedeng mag-shift from one option to another for the same taxable year. Okay? Now, the 8% option that you will be paying for the income tax represents already, as I've said, percentage and business. Therefore, pag nag-opt ng 8%, no need for you to pay the 3% percentage tax. Okay? So that is a simple illustration of our computation of your income tax. Now, let's move on to the next slide. Now, alam nyo na ngayon, diba? Mag-compute, simpleng computation, as I've said, para hindi kayo mahirapan, sundan nyo lang po yung mga income tax form natin at magagawa nyo po yan ng madali. Okay, now, who are required to file the income tax return? Marami pong tanong dyan. Required ba ako? Hindi ako required. So, number one, every Filipino citizen residing in the Philippines. So, kung ikaw ay Filipino citizen, nasa Pilipinas ka, required ka mag-file ng ITR. Just make sure lang, syempre po, meron pa tayong other options. Okay? Other conditions. Okay, next. Every Filipino citizen residing outside the Philippines or his income from sources without the Philippines or from inside the Philippines. So let's say, for example, Filipino citizen, pero nasa abroad, nagtatrabaho doon. Tapos may kita na siya doon sa abroad, may kita din siya dito sa Pilipinas. So required siya mag-file ng income tax po dito sa Pilipinas insofar as income niya po dito sa Philippines. Okay? Next, please. Every alien residing in the Philippines on income derived from sources within the Philippines. So, ikaw ay foreigner, no? You're an alien in the Philippines, but you're earning income inside the Philippines. So, you're required to file income tax return where you will have to declare income that you have received or income that you have derived inside the Philippines. Okay, next. Every non-resident alien engaged in trade or business or exercise a profession in the Philippines. So, every non-resident, foreigner ka, wala ka sa Pilipinas, pero kumikita ka dito sa Pilipinas, no? You may not be physically present here, but you're earning here and you will be now considered as engaged in trade or business, then you are mandated to file your income tax here in the Philippines. So, those are the general provisions on who are required to file the ITR. Okay, next slide, please. Now, let's go. Sino naman po yung not, no? Hindi required na mag-file. Okay, number one. An individual whose taxable income does not exceed 250,000. So, yung pong mga kumikita dito pero less than 250,000 naman, exempt, pwede po na hindi mag-file. Provided that a citizen of the Philippines and any alien individual engaged in business in the Philippines shall file an income tax return regardless of amount of gross income. So ito po yung sinasabi natin. Pagka ikaw ay engaged in business, okay, and alien ka nga, pero engaged in business ka naman, considered sa Pilipinas, regardless of amount, required po kayo mag-file ng ITR. Okay? Next, please. An individual with respect to pure compensation income derived from sources within the Philippines, income tax on which has been correctly withheld under the provision of the tax code. So, ito po yung tinatawag natin na mga substituted filers, no? Ito po yung mga compensation lang. Ang kita lang po ay sweldo, compensation, mga empleyado na yung pong kanilang employer ay nasa Pilipinas at isa lang ang employer nila within the taxable year. And yung pong kanilang income, mayroon pong tax na na-withhold yung kanilang employer at yung tax that has been withheld is already equal to the tax that should have been paid. In other words, yung pong tax na dapat bayaran na kolekta na. So ito po yung mga qualified for substituted filing. Let me just give you some more information about an individual that is qualified for substituted filing. Ibig sabihin, hindi na po magpa-file kasi mayroong nag-file in their behalf. So, sino po ang papasok dito? Yung lamang pong mga empleyado na ang kanyang kinikita ay purely compensation income. So, kung ikaw ay empleyado, meron kang compensation sa pag-employo mo, pero may other income ka, sumasideline ka, nagnenegosyo ka paunti-unti, hindi po kayo kasama dito. You will be mandated to file ITR kasi nagnenegosyo na po kayo. And pag nagninegosyo, wala po tayong exemption kahit po less than 250,000 pa yung inyo pong income. Okay? So, that an individual deriving compensation concurrently from 2 or more employers at any time shall still file an income tax return. Okay. Purely compensation income ka nga. Pero ang nangyari sa'yo, within the year, hindi isa lang ang employer mo. Kumbaga, nag-resign ka dun sa una, tapos within the taxable year, nag-empleyado ka ulit. So more than one po yung naging employer ninyo within the taxable year. Kahit pa po, naging tax due or equals to tax withheld at purely compensation, mandated po kayo mag-file ng income tax return because you have to account for the income that you have derived from your employment, previous and current for purposes of declaration po natin. Okay, so next please. Okay, another exempt from ITR filing, an individual whose sole income has been subjected to final withholding tax. Let's say for example, an individual po ay sa taxation po, meron tayong iba-ibang klase ng income. At ito pong mga income na to, mayroon pong ilan na subject po sa final tax. Ang example, para madali pong maintindihan, meron po kayong bangko, no? Sa bangko, may pera po tayo. Ang pera natin sa bangko, kumikita po ng interest. Yung interest na yan, interest income ng pera sa bangko is income na dapat po ay subject sa income tax. Now, since our regulation provides that interest income from your bank deposit is subject to final tax, kung mapapansin po ninyo pag nagtitingin kayo ng bank statement or even your passbook, makikita niyo doon, interest income nakalagay, no? Pero sa baba, may nakalagay withholding tax. So there is an amount of 20% that has been withheld, which that particular tax na binawas is final. Ibig sabihin, yung income tax due doon sa interest income mo sa bangko ay bayad na. And as such, dahil bayad na, final na yung amount na withhold, hindi ka na kailangan mag-file ng income tax return to declare that interest income. That is on the assumption na yun lang ang income mo. But of course, kung may other income ka, hindi po papasok dito sa exception na to. You may be required to file an income tax return. Okay, next please. Lastly, a minimum wage earner or an individual who is exempt from income tax pursuant to the provision of the code and other laws. So, minimum wage earner po, exempt po siya, no? Identified po the basic and even po yung kanyang mga allowances, no, is also exempt. So, in which case, kung yan lang po ang income niya, lahat po exempt, then hindi na po required mag-file si minimum wage earner ng income tax. Okay? As long as, of course, papasok pa din po tayo doon sa wala po siyang ibang income kung hindi yun lamang pong income niya from employment which is covered under minimum wage. Okay? Sige po. So next, let's move on to the next. So, alam na natin kung sinong required mag-file. Alam na natin po, ikaw, required ka ba mag-file? By now, alam mo na ba, required ka ba o exempt ka? Now, if ever you are required, these are the different forms that you need to file. Hindi po ito lahat ifa-file ninyo kung alin lamang ang applicable. Isang form lamang po. Either BIR Form 1700, BIR Form 1701 or BIR Form 1701A. 1700 BIR Form is applicable to purely compensation earners. Ito po yung sweldo lamang po ang ating kinikita at wala tayong ibang income. Kung tayo po ay hindi po nag-qualify doon sa substituted filing at required tayo mag-file, ito pong BIR Form 1700 ang ating gagamitin. Now, since this is only for employees, hindi po natin i-discuss. But more than that, we will be discussing with you BIR Form 1701 and BIR Form 1701A, which is applicable po sa inyo, mga freelancers, self-employed, so single proprietors, and professionals. Okay? So, what is 1701 and what is 1701A? When do we file these returns? Next slide po. Okay. Now, take note. BIR Form 1701, meron po nakalagay dyan, January 2018 ENCS. Yan po yung version. Yan po yung pinaka-current version ng ating BIR Form 1701, which is the annual income tax returns for individuals, including mixed income earners, estate, and trust. Okay, so ano po ito? Nagnenegosyo ka, single proprietor ka. Okay? Ito po ang gagamitin ninyo. No? Engage in practice or in business. Also, kung nagnenegosyo ka or bukod sa negosyo, meron ka rin compensation, empleyado ka rin, at the same time, ito po ang gagamitin ninyo na form. Kung ang inyo pong option is to use the regular income tax rate. Take note ha, kanina diniscuss ko na yan, yung regular income tax rate. So sabi mo, regular income tax rate gagamitin ko. Nagninegosyo ako o freelancer ka ngayon. You're going to use BIR Form 1701. Okay? Or, nagninegosyo ka, freelancer ka, bukod doon, empleyado ka, then you use BIR Form 1701. January 2018 ENCS version. Okay? So that's the form that you are going to use. Now, let's move on to the next. Now, this return shall be filed by individual regardless of amount of income. Okay? If they are resident citizen, engaged in trade, business, or practice of profession within and without the Philippines. So, resident citizen ka, nagnenegosyo ka, may negosyo ka sa Pilipinas, may negosyo ka sa abroad. You are mandated under our law that you need to declare in the Philippines your income inside the Philippines and outside the Philippines. So therefore, you need to file BIR Form 1701. Okay? Next, a resident alien, non-resident citizen, or non-resident alien individual engaged in trade or business or practice of profession in the Philippines. So, resident alien, ito po yung mga foreigner, nakatira dito, nagnenegosyo sila. Non-resident citizen, mga Pilipino, nasa abroad nakatira, pero nagninegosyo po dito sa Pilipinas. Or, non-resident alien individual, wala mga foreigner, wala sa Pilipinas, pero nagninegosyo, meron pong income na na-derive sa Pilipinas at considered po sila na engage in trade or business. In as far as income nila sa loob ng Pilipinas will have to be declared by filing BIR Form 1701. Okay, next please. Okay, another filer of 1701 would be a trustee of a trust, guardian of a minor, executor, or administrator of an estate, or any person acting in any fiduciary capacity for any person where such trust, estate, minor, or person is engaged in trade or business. Okay. Example, trustee of a trust. Diba, meron po tayong mga tao na pinanganak na may kaya, may pera na, pinamana ng magulang, or mayroon silang naipon, at mga ano po ito, medyo mga minor pa, no? And therefore they're not allowed to manage their own fund. Minsan yung mga pondo niyan pinapamanage po sa isang trust sa mga bangko. Now, kung yung pong pera ay inininegosyo nung trust, no, or nung guardian, or engage po sa negosyo, yun pong minor, the same, kailangan din po mag-file ng BIR Form 1701 to declare that income of the trust or the minor. Of course, yung minor po, hindi magpa-file, but it will be filed through their guardian. Okay. Now, yun naman pong sinasabing executor administrator of an estate. Ang isang individual na namatay. Tapos po, meron siyang mga kayamanan, meron siyang negosyo. Now, di ba po, pagka namatay yung isang individual, meron kang mga properties, may negosyo ka, before your heirs could inherit or before the properties or the business will be transferred doon po sa mga tagapagmana, they need to settle the estate. So, meron po tayong tinatawag na estate tax. Pag hindi pa po yun nabayaran, pwede po yung negosyo ng estate nung namatay ay dire-diretso pa. Pero, ang nagiging taxpayer po natin ay yung estate na. Hindi po yung heirs ng estate kaagad. Kung hindi pa po nakiklear yung estate tax, hindi po yan pwede na yung pong mga tagapagmana, sila na yung basta kinuha na lang po yung negosyo at ipinangalan sa kanila. Hindi po pwede yung ganon. There is such thing as the right to transfer. So dito po sa estate, ganon din po. So, in the meantime, na hindi po legally na itatransfer yung property at yung negosyo sa mga tagapagmana, yun pong negosyo tumutuloy sa pagtakbo, pero ang nagiging taxpayer po doon is the estate. So, let's say for example, ang pangalan po nung negosyante, nung taxpayer ay Juan de la Cruz, ang magiging taxpayer po ay estate of Juan de la Cruz. At yung negosyo niya, sige siya sa pagtakbo at yung taxation po natin for individual, yun po yung ini-apply natin dito po sa estate ng ating namatay insofar as yung pong kanyang income from the business. The same is true for yung pong mga trust natin, ganun din po. So yun po yung mechanics, no, for purposes of yung mga fiduciary capacity of any person. Okay, next. An individual engaged in trade or business or in the exercise of their profession receiving compensation income as well. So, ito yung mixed income earner. So, meron kang income sa trabaho, may negosyo, you use BIR Form 1701. So, for mixed income earner din po, papasok. But note, this would only be used if you are using itemized deduction. Take note of that, itemized deduction. Okay. Let's go to the next. So, if you're required to file BIR Form 1701, kailan po natin i-file? Wala pong ibang petsa tatandaan kung hindi on or before April 15. Yan po ang deadline natin. May nagtatanong, meron po bang extension? Every year na lang po, laging yan ang tanong, meron po bang extension? Hindi na tayo nasanay na ng deadline, no? But, for purposes po ngayon, as of today, wala pa po tayong official announcement or official policy on the extension. Ayaw ko po magbigay sa inyo ng opinion, but hintayin na lang po natin kung may lalabas ang BIR na advisory or revenue issuance if ever po magkakaroon ng extension. But, para hindi po tayo mamroblema, on or before po yan, kung required po mag-file, gawin na po natin. Tayo po ay mag-file before April 15 to avoid the rush. So, April 15 is the date. Okay. Next, please. Another form that you will have to consider if you are an individual, a single proprietor, or a professional is BIR Form 1701A. Again, meron pong A yan ha, yung kanina 1701 lang. So, ito po namang form na to, again, is January 2018 ENCS version. So, tatandaan lang po ninyo, lahat po mga forms na to ay 2018 version kasi yan po nag-start yung ating train law, which is being followed natin po ngayon sa ating taxation. Now, what is 1701A? It's an annual income tax return for individuals earning income purely business. Okay? Purely business. So, take note po yung kanina, yung mixed income, andun siya sa 1701. Kung purely business ka, Pero, gagamitin mong deduction ay optional standard deduction or ang iyong availment of income tax is the 8% flat rate, ang gagamitin po is 1701A. Okay, let me just go over with this and emphasize. Income tax po ng individual, engage in business po. Walang compensation, ha? So, business lang talaga. At, ang gagamitin mong deduction ay optional standard deduction. Ang gagamitin mo po, 1701A. Or, if you are an individual, single proprietor, or professional, engage in business, and you opt for the 8% flat income tax rate, ang gagamitin mo po, BIR Form 1701A. So, take note of that, yung difference kanina nung ating 1701. Yung pong 1701, mixed income, nagnenegosyo, may compensation, at gagamit ng itemized. Okay? 1701 po yon. Pero, kung purely income, mag-optional standard deduction po kayo, 1701A. Or, business po kayo, but you will avail of the 8% flat rate, 1701A. Oh, I hope po, no, sa kakulitan ko ng pinaulit-ulit ay matandaan po ninyo yung aking sinabi. Okay? Next slide, please. Okay, now, this return, ito, overemphasis na to, will have to be used by individuals earning purely income from business or practice of profession. And that would include a resident citizen insofar as within income inside and outside of the Philippines. A resident alien, a non-resident alien, or non-resident alien insofar as income that has been derived or gained inside the Philippines. So, yan po yung i-declare niyo dyan sa BIR Form 1701A. Okay, next please. Okay, the return shall only be used by those taxpayers that we have identified if the taxpayer will avail of the optional standard deduction. So, gagamit po siya ng graduated income tax rate, pero ang deduction po niya, optional standard deduction. And therefore, that 1701A ang ating gagamitin. Or, those that will be, who will be availing of the 8% flat income tax rate. So, ito po yung nasabi ko na kanina kung anong mga requisites dito and who can avail of the 8%. Okay? Next, please. Oh. Deadline. Abay, wala pong ibang tatandaang deadline on or before April 15. Again, we encourage that you file and pay if there is any tax due on or before April 15. Wag naman pong sabay-sabay tayong lahat, no, sa April 15. Mauna na po ang iba. Okay? Now, so we have the returns. Saan naman po natin i-file? Ano po ba yung mga different channels for filing and how, no, yung manner of filing these returns? So if you have identified already the tax returns that you will use, you may use the following venue for the filing of the applicable tax returns. So number one, we have the Electronic Filing and Payment System Facility of the BIR or EFPS. Hindi po lahat po pwedeng gumamit nito. There is a revenue regulations that mandated the taxpayers who are mandatorily required to do their EFPS filing. So particularly example po natin, large taxpayers, top 5,000 individuals, top 10,000 corporation, yung po mga prospective bidders ng government. So marami po itong mga mandated to use the EFPS. So hindi po lahat pwede. Mayroon pong itinakda na grupo ng taxpayers na pwedeng gumamit ng electronic filing and payment system. So, The other electronic filing that we have, other than EFPS, is EBIR form facility. The EBIR form facility is another way by which you can electronically file your tax returns. Ang difference lang po, no, there is also a set of taxpayers that are mandated to use the EBIR form. So, iba po yung required to file using EFPS, ibang grupo yan. Iba naman din po yung grupo na required naman na ang gagamitin nila ay yung EBIR form facility. Now, yun pong ating EFPS, diretso to, no? Diretso in the sense that mag-i-e-file ka using the facility, mag-i-e-pay ka using the facility. Isa lang pong proseso, diretso siya. Now, yung EBIR form, by the way, the EFPS po, may requirement po yan ng enrollment. So, kailangan po, kung mandated kayo, mag-e-enroll bago po kayo papasok o maa-allow na gumamit ng EFPS. Now, as against EBIR form facility, the EBIR form facility is actually, it's a downloadable package, no? So, all you have to do is, you go to the BIR website, tignan nyo po doon yung icon ng downloadables. Now, hanapin niyo yung EBIR. Pag nakita nyo, the latest version that we have is 7.8. Yun po yung i-download ninyo, i-save po ninyo yan either sa inyong laptop or sa inyong computer or sa inyong USB. And then, ilo-load po ninyo dyan sa inyong mga device, whether it be a PC or a laptop. At ito pong package, no, meron po itong if-fill up po ninyo yung inyong background. Ang importante lang po dito yung email address ninyo active. Kasi ang BIR system magko-communicate po sa inyo through your email address, which you will have to indicate in the enrollment or isubmit nyo po sa BIR. Okay. Both EFPS and EBIR requires na may internet connection po kayo. It's not sufficient na may laptop o may PC. Kailangan may internet connection po kayo. Either EFPS or EBIR form facility. Now, if you want details of this, you can go to the BIR website. Andun po ang details about EFPS. Nandun din po yung details about EBIR form facility. You may read them, and if you have questions, we have our Customer Assistance Division para po tumawag kayo doon or mag-email kayo sa kanila for any question or clarification that you may want insofar as the use of these online facilities of the BIR for purposes of filing returns, tax returns. Okay, so kung hindi ka EFPS, hindi ka din EBIR, nandun ka sa huli, manual. So manual would mean, pupunta po kayo either sa bangko, doon po ninyo ipa-file yung return, kasi kasabay dun sa filing ng return would be the payment of the tax that is due. In other words, pag may babayaran po kayo at manual po ang gagawin ninyo filing, kailangan nyo pong pumunta sa mga authorized agent bank ng BIR. And this authorized agent bank, may nakatakda po yan per RDO. Or, if in your case, halimbawa sa mga lugar po na wala pong mga authorized agent bank ng BIR, pwede po kayo pumunta dun sa mga municipal hall po ninyo, or sa City Hall for that matter, meron po tayong mga Revenue Collection Officers or RCO. These RCOs are authorized to receive payment of tax po for purposes po ng mga lugar kung saan po walang mga authorized agent bank. Okay? Now, doon nyo po ipa-file yung return. Kasi kasama po doon sa pag-file ng return, kasabay yon yung pagbayad po ng tax base po sa pag-compute ninyo kung meron pong lumabas na babayaran na income tax sa inyong mga tax returns. Okay, now, there is a recent development in the filing of tax returns. This was actually kanina, sinabi ni Deputy Commissioner Lani David, through accredited or authorized, certified TSPs, taxpayer software providers. So nilagay ko po dyan, example, Taxumo, kasi sila po yung nagko-conduct ngayon itong ating seminar. But if Ano po ba itong mga TSPs na to or taxpayer service providers, tax service providers? Sila po ay merong system. Na yung sistema na yan, may kakayahan siya na mag-prepare ng mga income tax return po ninyo. May kakayahan siya na mag-file sa BIR electronically. At may kakayahan din siya na magbayad electronically. Now, ito pong mga TSPs na to, nag-undergo po yan. Meron po kaming tinatawag na e-certification using our ETSP system sa BIR. So once na sila po ay na-certify na for a particular tax return, okay? Per tax return po yung certification ng BIR dyan, their name will now be posted in the BIR website. So sa BIR website, makikita nyo po doon sino po yung mga certified or accredited TSP ng BIR. And you could choose from them na pwede pong sila yung mag-service sa inyo for purposes of preparing your tax return, filing your tax return, paying the taxes that may be due on those tax returns. And of course, bahala na po kayong makipag-usap sa kanila. Labas na po dyan ang BIR kung whatever contract po ninyo with them. But of course, since services nila yan, private sila, may bayad po yun. Hindi po namin alam kung ano man po yung basehan sa pagbabayad. It will be a contract between the taxpayer, kayo po yon, and this accredited TSPs of BIR. So, dinagdag ko lang po ito just for you to know na you don't have to do the filing by yourself. No? Hindi mo kailangan i-expose ang sarili mo kung ayaw mo po na ikaw yung maggagawa nitong mga filing na to. You have the services of our accredited or certified ETSPs. Okay? So that's additional information for our taxpayers. Okay? Next, please. Okay. Now, may file na return, na-compute na, no? Pero sabi natin may mga authorized agent bank. Now, sabi mo, ang hirap pumunta sa authorized agent bank, ang haba ng pila, kung minsan nga may araw pa, no? May mga conditions sila. So you don't want that to be a hassle. Pero gusto mo talaga mag-file ng return, gusto mo magbayad ng tax. So what are the options? We have our e-payment channels. So therefore, pwede po kayo magbayad electronically through our e-payment channels. And these are our e-payment channels po sa ngayon. Number 1, we have Development Bank of the Philippines, no? Pay Tax Online. Yun po yung pangalan ng kanilang system, no? And this is applicable to holders of Visa, MasterCard, credit card, and or BankNet, and ATM or debit card. Now, next, we have Land Bank of the Philippines. Yung sa kanila naman, ang tawag ay LinkBiz Portal. So, if you have a Land Bank ATM account or you have a Land Bank account, or you are a holder of a BankNet, ATM, or debit prepaid card, then you may also utilize the PesoNet facility for purposes of RCBC, Robinson Bank, and Union Bank. Pwede po ninyong gamitin itong Land Bank LinkBiz for your electronic payment of your income tax that is due. Okay, another way of e-payment. Next, please. Okay, Union Bank online web and mobile payment facility. But of course, you can also only avail of this if you are an account holder of Union Bank. And through mobile payment, very, very popular, GCash and PayMaya. So you can even pay your income tax return through GCash, lalo yung mga nag-o-online. Alam ko may mga GCash account or PayMaya account kayo. So it will be easier for you to pay your income tax, no, using the e-payment gateway or channels ng BIR. Now, how do you avail of or how do you access these e-payment channels? Okay, next slide please. Yan. All you have to do is you go to the BIR website. So ano ba yung BIR website? www.bir.gov.ph. Pag nandun na kayo sa website namin, hanapin niyo po yung e-payment icon, no? Ayan po yung e-payment icon. Pinapakita po dyan noong pink na arrow natin. You click on that e-payment icon at lalabas na po sa inyo yung aming mga e-payment gateway. So, nandyan si Landbank, si PesoNet, si BankNet, si GCash, si Union Bank, at saka si Paymaya. Kung ano po yung option ninyo, base po sa availability po at pag-uusap din po ninyo doon sa mga requirements, then you just click on the proper icon and you can proceed already with your e-payment. You just have to fill in po information that are required pagka po pumasok na kayo doon sa kanilang mga site. So, as easy as that. Napakadali pong mag-e-payment. Huwag po kayong magpakahirap, napipila pa kayo sa bangko, nandyan yung danger, maraming tao, tapos yung danger ng yung COVID, and then kailangan mag-practice ng mga social distancing. So kung wala po kayong mga Jolalay, kung wala po kayong mga sabihin natin ng mga liaison officers na po pwedeng magawa nito para sa inyo, you can make use of e-payment at the click of your hands. Sa bahay po ninyo, pwede nyong gawin. Okay? So, those are our e-payment channels which you can use if you want to pay or there is a income tax that you have to pay this coming April filing po natin. Okay? So, next na po tayo. Kasunod. Nag-ITR na, may form na tayo, nagbayad. Meron po tayong mga kailangang i-attach. No? These are the basic ones. No? Hindi ito po, basic lang po ito. Again, ang pinag-uusapan natin, nagne-negosyo po kayo. Mayroon po kayong makita galing sa negosyo niyo or practice of profession. So when you file your ITR, there is a need for you to attach the following. Number 1, a CPA certificate. Ito po yung, kasi ang requirement po is audited financial statement. So, yung financial statement niyo includes balance sheet, income statement, and then of course, may mga cash position, cost of goods sold, marami po ito. Yung pong inyong mga accountant na if ever meron kayo, alam po nila yan. So, kailangan po may CPA certificate kung ang inyo pong gross sale or gross receipt ay more than 3 million. But kung wala, less than 3 million naman po, hindi na po kailangan ipa-audit pa sa isang independent CPA yung inyong financial statement. But you need to attach your financial statements. Okay? Also, with regard to your financial statement, meron Okay, next. Kung mayroon pong nag-withhold sa inyo, no? Let's say na customer, at binigyan po kayo ng BIR Form 2307 or Certificate of Withholding Taxes at Source, ito pong amount na withhold is advanced income tax po. Di ba kanina doon sa computation, pinakita po natin, pwede nyo itong ibawas. So, kung gagamit po kayo nito, ibabawas po ninyo doon sa income tax na dapat nyo bayaran, you need to submit likewise the form, the certificate, as an attachment to the ITR that you will file. And kung mayroon po nitong BIR Form 2307 certificate that you will claim as a tax credit po doon sa inyong income tax due, may requirement po yan ng submission of summary alpha list of withholding tax or SALT, which is sinasubmit po yan through the e-submission facility of the BIR. So, medyo detalyado na po yan. Hindi na po natin i-discuss yung details. But again, pag may mga questions po kayo, we have our Customer Assistance Division na po pwede pong sumagot sa inyo sa mga detalye. Kasi mahaba po pagka nag-detailed po tayo ng discussion. Okay. So, attachment po ito. Normally, kasabay po yan ng return. Okay? Pag nag-submit ng return, nag-file ng return, dapat naka-attach yan. Okay? However, there is an innovation that was done by BIR, and that would be our next slide. Next slide, please. Ayan. Yan po yung sinasabi namin na innovation ng BIR. So, meron kayong mga ifa-file, meron kayong mga isasubmit na documents kasama nitong mga income tax return. You don't have to go to BIR. Pwede nyo po siya i-file sa amin, i-submit electronically through the EAFS. So, ano po yung EAFS? Pakipindot nga po, please. Yan na po yung tanong. Ito po ang sagot. The EAFS is an additional option aside from you physically submitting your ITR or your audited financial statements and its attachment to the RDO or to BIR offices. So ito po yung sinasabi namin na online. Isasubmit nyo po yung mga financial statement ninyo, yung mga certificate, or yung ITR po na na-file, kasama po dito po, pwede po ninyo siyang isubmit through the EAFS. Okay, ano po itong EAFS? Next slide, please. Okay. So, taxpayer who, instead of submitting hard copies of the attachments to the ITR, may submit this attachment using the EAFS. So, yan po. So, anybody po, kayo po mga nagdidegosyo, kung required po kayo may mga attachment, paano po i-submit? You can make use of the EAFS. So, ano po natin? How do we access the EAFS? Napakadali po. Okay? How do we access it? Oh, you just go to the BIR website. Okay? And hanapin nyo lang po yung EAFS icon. Papindot po para lumabas yung ating square dyan. Yan. So hanapin nyo po yung icon na yan, EAFS. And then you click on that. Just follow po yung pong ating mga requirement. At ito pong mga isasubmit ninyong mga dokumento. Guidelines lang po is, of course, number 1, yung pong hard copy, kailangan po ninyo na i-scan. No? Kasi scanned copy po, PDF, yun pong isasubmit dapat as an attachment using po dito po sa pag-submit through the EAFS. So yun po yung kailangan natin, no? Dapat po ay naka-PDF siya. Now, should you want details, I would refer you to Revenue Memorandum Circular 49-2020 and Revenue Memorandum Circular 82-2020. Again, Revenue Memorandum Circular 49-2020 and Revenue Memorandum Circular 82-2020. Yan pong revenue issuances na yan, nandyan po kung paano po ang gagawin ninyo para po makasubmit kayo ng attachment or document attached to your ITR. Like po yung in-identify natin kanina, particularly example of which is your financial statement, certificate of withholding, and others. So, yan po yung electronic, no, online submission para po hindi nyo na kailangan pumunta sa BIR, sa RDO para i-submit. No? Pwede po kayong mag-online filing ng return at yung attachment ay online din po i-submit through the EAFS. So if you notice, madali na po mag-comply sa filing natin kasi electronic na po lahat ngayon. Okay? So I guess that would be all for my input, the information on your filing and payment. Liz?
Yes, thank you po. Yes, thank you so much, Ma'am Janet. That was a very, very in-depth presentation. I'm for sure people will be like I'm pretty sure you've cleared up a lot of questions that people have. But like once you know a bit more about taxes, a lot more questions pop up. So we have a couple of questions that we should that people have been commenting. So isa dito is hanapin ko muna yung mga taxes, ay mga questions. First of all, may extension po ba and deadline for annual ITR for SMB or sole prop? So like what Ma'am Janet said earlier, file earlier.
File earlier, better, no? File earlier. Kung dumating man yung extension, maraming salamat po. Pero kung walang dumating, natapos na po yung obligasyon natin. Let's not wait for the extension. Let's give our part po para hindi na po tayo nakikigulo sa traffic. Traffic sa tao at traffic sa linya, sa electronic din, no? Meron din po kasi tayong tinatawag na traffic for that. Wala pa pong official policy ang BIR on the extension. But hintay-hintay lang po kayo at mayroon po siguro tayong mga ilalabas. But for now, file na po tayo mas maaga. Wag na po tayong maghintay ng extension.
Okay, thank you for that. So guys, as much as possible, let's file early para kasi I think I remember as well na may times na magka-crash yung BIR service kasi ang daming taong pumapasok. So let's avoid that eventuality, no? Ayaw natin na ma-stress during April 15.
Alam mo, ang isa na observe namin kasi, 'di ba may on or before. Ang parang napako doon sa dulo yung April 15. Meron dong word na on or before. So sana doon tayo tumingin lahat sa on or doon sa before para hindi po magkaroon ng problema. It has been an experience several times already, several years, no? Pag deadline po talagang bumabagal yung sistema kasi nga po sabay-sabay po tayo lahat, nandun sabay-sabay sa linya. So meron din pong tinatawag na data traffic. So, wag na po tayo makasali dun sa traffic. Okay.
Yes. Let's file early, guys. So, yung next naman, is more of a comment than a question. So, hi, Ma'am Janet. Sana naman po pwede na rin i-download sa Apple computers ang EBIR forms. So, is Mac functionality coming soon po ba?
Opo. Meron naman po tayong enhancement ngayon na ginagawa. So, this particular concern has been considered and yung enhancement po is being done. So syempre lahat naman po dapat regardless of device dapat makagamit ng ating services. So we're looking into this na po. Wait lang po, coming very soon na din yan kasi may mga enhancement na po on the family way, on the pipeline.
Sige. Thank you for clarifying that, Ma'am Janet. So next question naman is from Kabatax. So if zero tax dues need po ba patatakan sa RDO yung form and BIR notification or no need na po and pwede na gamitin as supporting documents yung annual ITR namin?
Okay. Zero tax due, ibig sabihin no payment, no? Under our policy, for your information, pagka no payment return, wala pong babayaran, you are mandated to use the EBIR form facility. Ibig sabihin, electronic filing po kayo. Now, once you are successful already dun sa electronic filing ninyo, di ba may email naman po kayo marireceive. That is sufficient. You don't have to go to BIR, RDO, and bring your return there na pinrint mo at patatakan mo. The email notification acknowledging the receipt of your e-filed return is sufficient proof that you have already filed your ITR. No need po to go to the RDOs. Now, may attachment yon. Okay, yung attachment, as I have said earlier, pwede naman po ninyong isubmit through the EAFS. Okay?
Sige. So just to clarify, no need na to go to the BIR physically. No?
Yes, yung case natin dito Lidge, wala siyang babayaran, no payment return, and as such mandated to use the EBIR form facility. So electronic filing siya. And yung electronic filing, may email na tinanggap, notification that the BIR have received already. So that's sufficient proof na nakapag-file na siya ng kanyang income tax return. Okay. So no need to go to BIR kung saan po kayo registered.
Okay.
No more
Thank you for that. Okay. No more tatacation. I like that. Okay, your next question naman is from Rich Alex Apuntar. So question niya is if 8%, not necessarily na po file yung mga expenses, right? Doon na babawasan sa gross yung 8%.
Yes po. If your option, qualify po kayo dito sa option na to, less than 3 million yung inyong gross sale or gross receipt for the year, you don't have to, ipunin yung mga receipts and invoices because ang babayaran po is 8% on the gross. So, yun po yung sa pambayad ng income tax at business tax. So, no need for receipts and invoices for purposes of taxation. Ayan, nililiwanag ko. For purposes of taxation, kasi baka yung accountant naman ninyo, ire-record sa libro. O pag na-record sa libro, kailangan din naman niya kung meron kayong mga expenses na ipaparecord nyo sa libro ninyo. But for purposes of income tax, for purposes of your filing of income tax return, where you will avail of the 8%, hindi na po namin kailangan na mayroon kayong proof of receipts and invoices. Okay? Because the basis of the 8% is the gross. Wala pong deduction. Gross sales or gross receipts. Okay, that's it.
Okay, thank you for that. Next question naman is from Kabatax again. Ngayon, pandemic po, kailangan po ba patatakan sa RDO yung mga ITR and financial statement or EAFS notification is enough na?
Yung attachment po, EAFS po ang ating ine-encourage. No? You use the EAFS facility to submit the attachments, including your financial statements, that is required to be filed, no, with BIR. Okay? In-encourage po namin kayo, use the EAFS.
Okay. Another question naman from Kabatax. Very engaged siya na tao ngayong webinar. So, may link po ba sa BIR sa Taxumo? I think as well, like, saan nila mahanap yung link for the TSPs sa BIR website?
Kung yun yung tanong, you just go to the BIR website. Alam nyo naman, www.bir.gov.ph. Tapos, hanapin nyo po doon sa mga accredited, meron po doong ETSPs, accredited ETSPs icon. You click on that, lalabas po yung listahan ng mga certified ETSPs ng BIR.
Sige, thank you. And for next question, I've had my mga personal messages coming in from one of the community, so I will highlight them as well before I go on with the Facebook na mga questions. So, yung isang question is, audited financial statement is for those gross income beyond 3 million. So
Yes,
just to clarify, so if less than 3 million, hindi na kailangan i-audit, diba? Just to confirm that.
Yes. When we say audited, this has to be certified by CPA, independent auditor. No? Yun po, kailangan po isasubmit din po yung kanyang CPA certificate, yung kanilang opinion about the financial statement. So yun po yung sinasabi dito. Pagka more than 3 million lamang po yan, mandatory.
I see, sige. Yung next question naman is, are the taxes that I pay quarterly considered an expense? If so, under what category does it fall under?
I would assume ito ay income tax, no? Quarterly income tax. So
Yes.
the quarterly income
Yes.
tax is never, for taxation purposes, is never an expense. So you don't deduct it as part of your operating expense. Yung sa kanina, di ba, may formula ako pinakita, yung how to compute. Meron dong less operating expenses. Hindi po doon nilalagay kung ano man yung mga binayaran nyo sa quarterly income tax. It is a deduction na tinatawag natin, doon po siya papasok. Mayroon po doong portion ng tax paid from quarterly income tax. Meron pong line doon nyo po ilalagay kung ano man yung binayaran nyo sa quarterly income tax ninyo. But never in operating expenses.
How about yung, let's say for example, yung percentage tax, yung sa 2551Q, would that be considered an expense?
Okay. Yung pong ating percentage tax, under the law, is classified as taxes and licenses. So if that's the case, taxes and licenses, yung percentage tax, pwede siyang i-allow as deductible operating expense under the category of taxes and licenses. Diyan din po pumapasok yung annual registration fee of 500 that you pay annually. Kasama din po yan dyan. Pwede niyo po siyang ibawas as a deductible expense under the account title ng taxes and licenses.
Okay, thank you for that. Yung next question medyo mahaba ito. Galing siya kay Noemi. So for 8% or OSD, when you say no substantiation, what does that mean po? Does this mean exemption from submission of financial statements? Exemption from maintenance of books of accounts? Challenge po kasi for micro businesses na limited pa budget to retain a bookkeeper or accountant or subscribe to online apps.
Okay, when I say po no substantiation, ibig sabihin lang po niyan, di ba po normally meron kang binayaran, no? Ito, kunyari, nagbayad ka ng kuryente, o meron po tayong official receipt na may proof na nagbayad tayo ng kuryente. Now, if that particular kuryente was spent or na-incur po natin dun sa business mismo natin, then that's allowable. Now, if you will claim that as an itemized expense, dapat nakatago po yung resibo. But, kung hindi ka naman mag-a-itemize, yung resibo na yun, pwede mo itago, pwedeng hindi. Hindi ka mo kapag itemize ka, mandatory whether you like it or not. Otherwise, pag inaudit ka ni BIR at hindi mo napakita yon, i-disallow yung expense na yon. But if you avail of the 8% or the optional standard deduction, pwede po na hindi mo na itago yun, no? Kasi hindi yan hahanapin during the audit. Kasi hindi mo naman siya ginamit as a deduction for purposes of arriving at your taxable income. Okay? So I hope that clears that particular question.
Okay, thank you for that, Ma'am Janet. So yung next question naman is about EBIR forms and EFPS. Can you file at the same time using EFPS or EBIR forms?
Ay, hindi po. Ganito po yung rule, di ba kanina sabi ko, meron pong mandated na dapat EFPS ang gagamitin nila. Nag-example ako dyan, large taxpayers, top 20,000 corporation, top 5,000 individual, taxpayers who are mga prospective bidders, yung mga top taxpayers po natin in the RDOs, yun po mandated sila. Ibig sabihin, whether they like it or not, they should be filing using the electronic filing and payment facility of the BIR. Now, meron naman din po tayong tinakda na grupo na yun naman mandated EBIR. So in other words, if you're mandated to use EBIR form facility, yun din po ang gagamitin ninyo. So ano yung example natin? Actually, professionals, pumasok dyan. Yung mga on-net transactions, yun pong ating mga no payment returns, no? Kasama po dyan sa accredited printers, kasama din po sila dyan sa mandatory. Now, isa lang po ang pwede mong gamitin. It's either EFPS ka ba or EBIR ka. Hindi pwedeng ang sipag mo naman, nag-EFPS ka na, tapos nag-file ka pa sa EBIR. So, that is not proper. Only one. However, ito yung malaki. EFPS ka. Nung pag-file ka, down yung EFPS, nagka-problema. So, anong gagawin mo? Now, our workaround, lagi po yan, ang gagamitin nyo po, EBIR form facility. So, pag EFPS ka, magpa-file ka, nagkaroon ng advisory si BIR na down ng EFPS, ang workaround, magpa-file ka, electronic pa din using the EBIR form facility. Okay? So, that's the only time. Pero, hindi ka nag-file ng pareho. Hindi ka nag-file ng EFPS, nag-file ka pa ng EBIR. So, isa lang filing po yon, either of the two. Okay? So, sana po naging klaro yung sagot ko doon, no?
So, dapat either or. You need to choose.
Yeah, only one.
Only one. Okay. So, next question po natin is regarding the EAFS, kailangan bang pirmahan ng taxpayer before submitting in EAFS together with the attachments?
Oh, well, ang requirement is copy, di ba? So, dapat meron siyang signature.
Okay. So,
Now,
kailangan ng
mga,
signature.
di ba? Oo, may signature pa din siya. Pero last year, nagka-problema tayo, mayroong inalaw na walang signature, yung mga employees, no, sa BIR Form 2360 naman yun. But for purposes nung iba financial statement, dapat po may pirma yan. Wala pa po tayong policy on that. But technology ngayon, may tinatawag na e-signature. We came up already with an RMC on e-signature, kaya lang it applies pa lang sa withholding tax certificate, yung 2306, 2307, and 2316. So wala pa yung as far as itong mga documents na to.
I see. Noted that. So kailangan talaga ng signature.
Red signature.
Okay. Let's answer a few more questions kasi masyado nang late. It's already almost 3:30. So itong question na to is that can you help elaborate again on operating expenses when business at home, like can electricity bill be I think very relevant to sa mga freelancers kasi yung home office nila, yung home talaga is their office. So how are you able to, paano ba i-expense yung mga ganun na medyo may intersection between your personal and your business expenses?
Oo. May merong ano, sige, sample natin yung electricity. O, yung bahay mo, yun ang office mo. At yan din ang bahay mo, diyan ka nakatira, nandiyan ang pamilya mo, at gumagamit kayo ng kuryente. Yung kuryente na ginagamit mo, portion of it, ginagamit sa negosyo, portion of it, ginagamit niyo sa buhay ng pamilya. No? Now, let's say for example, 10,000 yung bill. Ang mahal ng bill mo. Let's assume 10,000 yung bill mo. Binayaran mo. Yung bang 10,000 allowed as deduction mo sa business? Hindi po necessarily. Kasi po, 'di ba? Ang sabi natin related sa business. And yung consumption mo ng electricity mo, while portion of it is related to business, portion of it is personal. So, ang ginagawa po natin dyan, meron tayong proportion or allocation. Parang the usual that we do is 50% as operating expense. We did share dun sa personal mo na ginamit. So, merong mga ganun tayo, especially kung nasa bahay tayo, na yung gastos natin sa bahay ay both benefited yung business at saka yung personal life po natin. Pag inaudit po yan at nakita po na ganon, hindi po i-allow yung 100% of the expense kasi portion of the expense is benefited po yung personal life natin. Okay?
I see. So allocate, best practice is 50% allocation. Okay. And this applies like okay. And
also sa
I see. And even kahit like let's say for example yung internet natin, we can also do that 50% ganon.
Oh, yes. For example, may internet cafe ako. Yung internet cafe ko, di ba, meron akong internet doon, binabayaran ko. Identifiable ko na yung internet fee na binabayaran ko, ay doon ko lang siya ginagamit sa internet cafe ko. Hindi ko siya ginagamit sa personal ko. So in which case, 100% of the internet fee can be used as a deduction doon sa internet cafe business mo. I
see. Noted on that. Let's proceed na lang to the next few questions. We'll hurry it up na lang kasi 3:30 na. We're running out of time. So question na to is not ITR related, but nagplan siya na mag-sell ng e-books, mga presentation. I only have billing statement on official receipt for my current practice. Where do digital products fall considering they are not services? Do I have to get a sales invoice for this? Thank you so much.
Okay. Annual income, this would be selling of e-books, no? So, digital products siya. If this will be considered as sale of goods, okay, kung papasok siya sa sale of goods, then invoice po yung kailangan natin. Okay? Invoice ang i-issue mo pag binenta mo. Pag nagbayad, pwedeng acknowledgement receipt or cash receipt. Okay? Now, kung this will be considered naman as services, sale of service, then tama itong ginawa mo. May billing statement ka which is upon sale, magbi-billing statement ka, at pag nakolekta na bayad, you issue official receipt. So, tama po yan. So, it would all depend on the classification ng e-books o yung ibebenta mong product, if it will be under sale of goods or sale of service. So now, as e-books, digital products, I'm not sure kung ano ang naging ang tawag dito, treatment no ng BIR, but the policy that I said would follow depending upon kung considered as sale of goods or sale of service.
Okay. Thank you for that, Ma'am Jan. And let's entertain this last question. I'm sorry for a lot of you who have asked, but let's kasi we're running out of time. So this is the last question we will be entertaining for this webinar. Do I still need to file ITR? I'm a freelancer and sole proprietor at the same time, but my income is still below 250,000. So yes, yes, kailangan.
Yes po. At in. Basta nagbi-business kayo, regardless of amount required to file. Yung pong 250,000 below is only for compensation earners na exemption. Okay.
Okay, so thank you so much, Ma'am Janet, and thank you for everyone who has asked questions, but we've run out of time. Sumobra na tayo sa 3 p.m. na na oras for Ma'am Janet. So thank you so much for your time, talaga, Ma'am Janet. And before we end, do you have any words for our viewers regarding the taxes?
Oo, actually talagang magbibigay ako ng last words. Reminder, of course, reminder. You know, every one of us, Filipinos, we have our obligation, no? As such. Ngayon, in the pandemic, alam natin how urgent, no, our funds para to support ito pong ating mga health, no, health services. Hindi na yung infrastructure, not much anymore. It's more of the health services ang kailangan natin ngayon. And you know, ITR is collecting, but you are the one paying. So, nasa kamay po ninyo kung paano natin tutulungan yung ating bayan, kung paano natin tutulungan ang ating mga kababayan sa pamamagitan po ng taxes na dapat nababayaran natin. So, sana po ma-realize natin that whatever amount, no, ng babayaran po natin sa tamang panahon, at ito na po yung tamang panahon, would go a long way in terms of the funding requirement of the government to provide the needed services of our people, the required services of our country. And us being Filipino, wala naman pong ibang tutulong sa atin kung di tayo mga Pilipino. Mahiya naman tayo na yung mga foreigner ang tumutulong at sa Pilipinas. Number one tayo kasi tayo din naman po yung beneficiary at the end. No? So, paying taxes for me is not a burden. Yan yung lumang-lumang pag-iisip about taxes. For me, taxes that we pay is an investment. It is an investment for our country. It is an investment for the future generation of this country. Why? Kasi po yung taxes na binabayaran natin ngayon, gagamitin yan, pampagamot, pampatayo ng public school, pantayo ng mga public hospitals, pantayo ng mga daan na dadaanan natin sa darating na panahon. No? And we may not know, bakit investment? Hindi mo alam kasi future. Pwedeng ikaw, tigba ka na, patay ka na, hindi na ikaw. Sino nang makikinabang sa tax na binayaran mo? Pwedeng anak mo, apo mo, kaapu-apuhan mo, or yung future generation, yung lahi mo. Sila yung magkakaroon ng benefit. But did the benefit come? Depende yun sa'yo. Kung binigay mo yung share mo, ibinayad mo yun, then that particular taxes that you pay will go to the project that the government have intended it. And as such, beneficiaries at the right time will receive those benefits. Sabi nga po natin, no? Dito sa mundong ibabaw, lahat po ng nangyayari is with a purpose. So, let's not be the hindrance to that purpose. Instead, let's be the medium to the attainment of that purpose. And that is, bayaran natin po yung ating tax na tama, bayaran natin sa tamang panahon ng maaga, at makatulong po tayo sa ating kababayan at sa ating bansa. As we in the BIR say for our tax campaign theme this year, sama-sama sa hamon ng panahon, buwis mo, buwis ko, at buwis nating lahat para sa mga Pilipino. So, maraming salamat. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat.
Thank you so much for those words, Ma'am Jan. And yes, definitely, like taxes are really a core part of nation building. Without taxes, we're not able to fund infrastructure projects, yung mga education projects ng government, and a lot of things that we always sometimes take for granted, like we can't see it, but andun na pupunta yung taxes natin. So, as an investment in the development of this country, an investment in the future of this country, let's pay our taxes, especially on April 15 or earlier.
Yes.
Earlier. So,
the very special day.
Yes. So thank you once again, Ma'am Lani, who has been with us earlier, and for you, Ma'am Janet, for that for the presentation. You have shared so much knowledge to us today, and to our partners as well for helping educate their committees regarding taxes by sharing this webinar. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it, and the thousands of people who watch this webinar can use this as reference on how to pay their annual ITR in the future. And thank you so much for adding to this body of knowledge of taxes. Thank you. And once again, if you need pala, medyo may pagpa-plug ako dito sa Taxumo. If you need a quick and easy way to do your annual income tax returns, you can do it with Taxumo. We have features that can help automate your annual ITR filing, such as, nag-fill up kami ng software namin nag-fill up ng tax forms ninyo, calculate your taxes for you, and also prepare your attachments for you. You can sign up for free at www.taxumo.com, free yung account. And, BIR has gone to great strides into providing us with EBIR forms, but if you want to see a difference between EBIR forms and Taxumo, you can see this blog post that we made na ano yung mga pros and cons between EBIR forms and Taxumo. So thank you once again, everyone. Thank you for Ma'am Janet, Ma'am Lani. Thank you for our viewers, and goodbye. See you on the April 15 tax filing deadline. Thank you.